Welcome to episode 99 of the 3M Fear podcast. Jeanette moved in with her daughters, and the firefighters came together to completely renovate the place. They tore it down, almost to the bare frame. They wanted to rebuild the house completely. Now, because the house was under major construction, many of the doors and windows were unsecured at night, and this made Jeanette nervous. To help herself feel safer, she went out and bought 7 security cameras to monitor the outside of her house. Every night while her daughter slept, Jeanette would sit, open her laptop, and watch the camera feed. Now, one night she was sitting as usual, watching the camera feed. Now, this particular camera was showing her the front of her house. Just as she was watching, something strange happened. Something that she wasn't expecting at all. From the dark tree line, she saw a figure walking up to the house. Now she couldn't make out the face. This person was wearing a long cloak and they calmly walked up the driveway. She couldn't even make out if it was a man or a woman. The figure didn't come up to the house. They just stopped in the middle, looked right at the house, and stood there. Hello and welcome to the 3am Fear podcast. I'm Nikita Ferrao, mystery and thriller author. On this podcast, I talk about real crimes and real people. Due to the graphic nature of some of this content, listener discretion is advised. You can find the episode show notes on my website 3amfear.com. Let's get started. On January 23rd, 2005, a day that would later be known in New York City as Black Sunday, a devastating tragedy happened. Curtis, a firefighter in New York City, found himself trapped inside a burning apartment building in the Bronx. The fire was raging, and Curtis, along with 5 other firefighters, was stuck on the 4th floor with no way to escape. The flames were closing in, and the only option left was to jump. With no other choice, the firefighters decided to jump from the 4th floor. Sadly, Curtis and one other firefighter did not make it. They lost their lives from the fall. But that was not the only heartbreak in the city that day. In another place in New York City, another fire broke out and a 3rd firefighter lost his life. Together, 3 brave firefighters would lose their life on one single day, making this the greatest loss of life for the New York City Fire Department since the attacks on September 11, 2001. Back at home, Curtis's wife Jeanette and their 2 daughters, Angela and Deneen, were devastated. Angela was a teenager and Deneen was a little younger. They couldn't believe that their husband and father, who had just left for work like any other day, was not coming back. Their world had changed forever in one night. Now, adding to this grief was the constant presence of news cameras and reporters. This tragedy was so high profile that the media members were gathered outside Janeen's house, hoping that they could interview the widow. The family wasn't ready to speak publicly. They were still mourning and they felt trapped. They couldn't get out of the house. They didn't want to talk to the media personnel. They couldn't do anything. If they opened the news, all they would see was Curtis's death, and it didn't help them. The home that they were living in right now was the one that Curtis had built it himself. It was kind of a labor of love. Living in that house that Curtis had built became harder for Jeanette and the girls every day. Every corner of the house had a memory. The sadness was constant, and at the same time, Remember, the media personnel were always outside the house trying to get an interview. One day, Jeanette got her daughters to sit down and told them, I don't think we can live here. I think we need to move. We need a new start. They loved their home, they loved their father, but living here with all these memories was too painful. So Jeanette began searching for a new place. And it didn't take her long before she found a small house out on Long Island. It was still in New York, just a little outside the city. The house sat on a full acre of land, which was very rare for the price that the owner was asking. It almost seemed too good to be true. When they went to look at it, Jeanette immediately realized that the house needed a lot of work. Maybe that's why the price was low. But at the same time, something about the house felt right. And Jeanette immediately said yes. Lucky for Jeanette, Curtis's fellow firefighters were very close to the family. When they heard that Jeanette had bought a new house, they offered to fix it up for her. With their support, Jeanette moved in with her daughters, and the firefighters came together to completely renovate the place. They tore it down, almost to the bare frame. They wanted to rebuild the house completely. Now, because the house was under major construction, many of the doors and windows were unsecured at night, and this made Jeanette nervous. To help herself feel safer, she went out and bought 7 security cameras to monitor the outside of her house. She connected all of them to her laptop so that she can keep an eye on what is happening. As days passed, watching the live camera feeds became a habit. Every night while her daughter slept, Jeanette would sit, open her laptop, and watch the camera feed. She would later go on to say that there was something oddly calming about it. It gave her a sense of control. It helped her see if anyone came inside the house or went outside the house. Now, when she was watching this camera feed, she wasn't expecting to see anything. Jeanette would also go on to say that she kind of found it comforting to sit inside the safety of her new home and watch what's going on outside. She wasn't expecting anything to happen because remember, she bought this house kind of outside the city, so just watching the cameras gave her a sense of peace. Now, one night she was sitting as usual, watching the camera feed. Now, this particular camera was showing her the front of her house. She could see the edge of the yard, that is her fence, and after that, she could see the thick forest. Nearby, she could see the driveway and also an old swing set. Everything was quiet and still, and she didn't expect much. But just as she was watching, something strange happened. Something that she wasn't expecting at all. From the dark tree line, she saw a figure walking up to the house. Now she couldn't make out the face. This person was wearing a long cloak and they calmly walked up the driveway. She couldn't even make out if it was a man or a woman. The figure didn't come up to the house. They just stopped in the middle, looked right at the house, and stood there. Jeanette was frozen in place. She didn't move, she didn't even think about grabbing her phone and calling the police. She kept staring at the screen. The camera wasn't high definition, so she couldn't even realize what this person or who this person was. The image was a little fuzzy. All she could see was an outline. This person was standing there and still staring at the house. After some time, the figure slowly turned around and walked back into the woods. And then it was gone. Jeanette didn't know what to make out of it. At first, she thought, was this the trick of a camera? Was it a large animal? But that shadow looked human. The image looked scary, but she convinced herself that there had to be a logical explanation. Maybe someone wanted to talk to her and decided that it was late at night and this person just walked back. At first, she thought maybe it was a neighbor, but Jeanette didn't have a neighbor. As she was sitting there and thinking, she realized that her daughters were still sleeping upstairs and she didn't want them to be at any harm. Now, while Jeanette was downstairs, trying to make sense of what she had just seen, her daughters were quietly sleeping in their rooms. They had no idea what had just happened. Angela, the older of the two, was in her bedroom, sitting up on her bed with her back pressed against the wall, reading a book. Suddenly, she felt something unusual. There was a faint tapping, and this tapping was coming from the wall behind her. At first, she thought that maybe she was imagining it. She put her book down, sat up straight, and listened carefully. Just a moment later, there came three loud knocks. Angela's heart jumped. The knocks were clear, loud, and right behind her. It felt as if the knocks were coming from inside the walls. Angela was scared by the loud banging on her wall. It felt clear, too close, like someone was trying to get her attention. She quickly got out of bed, walked out of the bedroom door, and when she opened it, she saw that down in her living room, her mother was sitting on the couch, staring at her laptop. At that time, Angela had no idea that her mother was staring into the laptop and watching this man who was outside her house. She looked at her younger sister Denine's room, which was down the hall, and the door was closed. Angela stepped back into her room, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Did she imagine it? Was it real? Still feeling a little curious, she pressed her ear gently to the wall, hoping to see if she could hear that knocking sound again. The very second her ear touched the wall, she jumped back in fear. It felt as if someone or something had slammed the wall with full force. Terrified, she ran back to her bed, got under the covers, and stayed there, heart racing. Now, what Angela didn't know at that time was that the exact same time that she was having this nightmarish feeling, her younger sister Deneen was having strange experiences of her own. Deneen was also hearing tapping noises, but her tapping noises weren't coming from the walls. Instead, they were light rhythmic taps on a bedroom door. They sounded like knocks. At first, Deneen thought that maybe it was a mother who was coming to check up on her, so she got up from her bed, walked to the door, and opened it. But there was no one there. She leaned out of the door, looked into the hallway, and saw her mother sitting downstairs, staring at her laptop. And remember, at that time, Jeanette was looking at this figure who was standing outside. When Deneen realized that it was not her mother, she shut the door, turned back, and went to bed. But just as the door clicked shut, she heard the same knocking sound again. This time, Deneen didn't wait another second. She ran to the door and opened it in a hurry. Now, if there was a person who was knocking at the door, this person wouldn't have enough time to escape. Deneen would see this person. That was the speed that she went to open the door. But as soon as she opened the door, she realized that there was no one there. Just like her sister, she ran straight back into her bed, pulled the covers over her head, hoping that whatever was outside would go away. Both girls would later go on to say that the tapping didn't stop right away. Throughout the night, they would go on to hear these strange noises, soft tapping noises. For Angela, they were coming from inside the walls. But for Deneen, they were coming on the door. The next morning, Angela and Deneen came downstairs, both of them tired. Both of them hadn't gotten a good night's sleep. As they sat down and talked about what happened, they both realized that they were not alone in this. Angela told Deneen about the strange tapping on a wall, and Deneen's eyes widened. She said that she also heard similar tapping, but only that her tapping was coming from her bedroom door. By now, they were both freaked out. The more they talked, the more they realized that they both had similar experiences and whatever was happening was not normal. As both girls nervously whispered back and forth, their mom Janine walked into the kitchen and immediately she could tell that something was not right. The girls looked anxious. They looked as if they were in a serious conversation, but at the same time, they were scared. "What's going on?" she asked. Both girls looked up and at once told their mother everything. Angela would go on to say that she heard tapping sounds coming from inside the walls, while Deneen would say that she heard knocking sounds, and when she opened the door, no one was there. Jeanette listened carefully and then calmly told the girls that we are not used to these sounds, but it's an old house. Houses creak, pipes make noises, maybe you misheard it. Now remember, Jeanette was also scared because she had just seen a figure the previous night. But at the same time, she wanted to convince her daughters that nothing was wrong while she figured out what was wrong. Over the next few days, the renovation work on the house continued. A group of Kurt's firefighter friends had volunteered to fix up the place, and now they were looking at the basement. It was a mess, filled with dusty old furniture, rusty tools, boxes of random junk, all left behind by the person who had lived there before. The first step that they had to do was to clear everything out. As the firefighters began moving items and organizing the basement, one of them, Tom, made a strange discovery. Under a pile of old boxes and furniture, Tom saw something on the floor: a large pentagram. A pentagram is a five-pointed star drawn inside a circle. Imagine the symbol that is associated with dark rituals or satanic imagery. That pentagram. Shocked, Tom immediately called Jeanette downstairs and showed it to her and asked her, "What do you want me to do with this?" Jeanette didn't hesitate. "Paint over it," she said. "I don't want the girls to see this." Jeanette knew that both her daughters were afraid with what had just happened and she didn't want to scare them anymore. But what Jeanette didn't know was that Angela and Deneen had already seen these symbols. They hadn't seen it in the basement, but they had seen it outside. Before the girls had heard that knocking sound and had gotten scared, the girls had been exploring the woods behind the house. As they were playing there, they noticed that among these trees and rocks, they kept finding strange carvings, these pentagrams, just like the one that was in the basement. Some were carved into the tree bark, others were drawn on stones, some were even drawn on the dirt on the ground. These symbols were everywhere. The girls, of course, knew what these pentagrams meant: black magic, but they didn't want to tell their mom and scare her. So, without realizing it, Jeanette hadn't told her daughter about the pentagram that she found, and Angela and Deneen didn't tell their mother about the pentagrams that they had found. A few days later, Angela was home alone in the afternoon. Her mother had left her with a short list of chores to be done before she returned. Angela went to the kitchen, opened the fridge door, and began to carefully remove the food, wiping the fridge inside. After cleaning the fridge, the next job was to clean the drawers. As she was going through them one by one, a strange feeling crept over her. She couldn't explain it. It felt as if someone was standing behind her. She kept turning around to check, but every time the kitchen was empty. Her younger sister wasn't home, so it couldn't have been her. At first, Angela tried to shake it off. She focused on her task. She had to finish cleaning before her mother came back. Once she had done her tasks, when she was just about to give up and go upstairs, she heard a sudden explosive crash that made her jump. The sound was deafening. Every pot, pan, spoon, knives, forks, anything that was there in the kitchen came crashing to the ground all at once. Angela spun around in shock at what she just saw. Every single cabinet and drawer in the kitchen had flung open. Dishes, utensils, cookware, everything was on the floor. It was as if someone had taken this entire kitchen and just crashed it into the floor. Angela let out a loud scream and ran upstairs as fast as she could, locking herself in her bedroom and curling up in her bed. A little while later, Jeanette would come home, and as soon as she stepped inside the house, she gasped. The kitchen was a complete disaster. It looked as if someone had broken into the house and ransacked the place. Fear surged as she started screaming out for Angela. Terrified that something might have happened to her daughter, Jeanette ran upstairs to her bedroom, screaming out her name. Finally, when she went to Angela's room, she found her in the corner of her bedroom, shaking, unable to speak. Jeanette knelt down and asked her, "What's going on? What happened to the kitchen?" But Angela was too scared to talk. Her words came out in small sentences. All she could say was that she didn't know what happened, how it happened, or who did it. Fearing that someone might be in the house, Jeanette ran through the house, checking every room, every door, every window, making sure that no one had gotten into her house. When she didn't find anything suspicious, she grabbed her laptop and started looking into the security footage. She knew that if someone had broken into the house, this person would be caught in the cameras that were all around the property. But there was no intruder. No one came into the house, no one got out of the house. So who did it? As Jeanette continued to look at the camera, the house had been completely still, except for what had happened inside. Angela couldn't stop crying, even as her mom kept telling her that no one had broken into the house. She continued to cry. Jeanette had no idea what was happening. She checked the security footage again. There was no intruder. So did Angela do this? After some time, Jeanette turned to Angela and asked her, "Why does the kitchen look like that? Did you do it?" Angela tried to explain, her voice shaking, but what she said made no sense. She would go on to tell her mother that she had just finished cleaning the kitchen and she was walking back to her room when she heard this sudden explosive crash. And when she turned, every cabinet and drawer were open and everything was thrown to the floor. Now, even though a lot of strange things had happened around the house, Jeanette couldn't believe this. At first, she thought that maybe Angela had done this mess. Maybe Angela was angry and she did it, and now she didn't have an explanation to it. But the more she looked at her daughter, the more she realized that Angela looked scared to death and she wasn't acting. And finally, Jeanette realized that she believed her daughter. After that day, Angela changed. She became more quiet, more distant. Jeanette noticed that her daughter, who was once very open, very loud, very happy, was now very quiet. She would only answer specific questions when asked to her, and she would not engage in any other conversation. She just sat, ate, and then went back to her room. Jeanette had no idea what had happened to her daughter. Just a few days later, while the firemen continued to do their work in the basement, they began tearing down sections of her old drywall. The space had been cluttered and no one had bothered to clean it out for years. And as they pulled away one section of the wall, a small object fell from a space behind it. One of the firemen, a friend of Jeanette's late husband, noticed that it was an old journal. It had a small ribbon tied to it, and it looked like it was tied several years ago. Curious, he took it upstairs, gave it to Jeanette, and told her that maybe she should take a look. Jeanette took the journal, unsure of what to expect. It felt strange. This looked like it was really old, and she carefully opened it. And that's when things began to take an even darker turn. Jeanette carefully opened the old journal, making sure that she didn't destroy it. As she turned the pages, she noticed a date that was written in the beginning, 1927. That was the year that the house was built. This journal must have belonged to someone who lived here when the house was built, the first owner of the house. Whatever was written in the journal was signed by someone named Christina. From the writing style, it looked like this girl was a very young woman. At first, the entries were ordinary: daily observations about her life, notes about her family, the chores. But as Jeanette continued reading the journal, things started to change. In this journal, Christina had not just written about her daily life and her work, she had also written about sexual abuse by her father, who belonged to a cult and performed animal sacrifices. The journal read, quote, "He made me bleed the way he made the animals bleed." End quote. As Jeanette continued to read, the writings became darker and darker. It was not just the writings. Christina had also drawn images that looked like ritual sacrifices. At first, she had drawn animal images, and then people. And even more horrifying was the location of these rituals. Next to the images was written the basement, the exact same place where Jeanette had found the drawing. Now, along with all these images, Christina had drawn out a small part of the house that Jeanette found odd. This space wasn't even a proper room. It wasn't even a closet. It's not a room, it was kind of like an old cement space. A 4x4 space with no real purpose. You couldn't use it as a closet, you couldn't use it as a room. It was just this small space, and Jeanette initially had no idea what it was for. But now that she was looking at the diagrams, she realized that this space was used for some really dark rituals. Jeanette felt a chill run down her spine. She snapped the book close and made the decision. She was not going to tell her daughters anything. They were already too scared, and she didn't want to burden them. A few days later, Angela was in a room trying to distract herself by listening to some music. She had her headphones on and she was lying on the bed when she heard, or she thought, that she heard someone call her name. She paused the music, pulled off her headphones, and called out, "Mom?" as she walked to the door. She opened it and looked down the hallway. Her mom's voice came from downstairs. "No, I didn't call you," Jeanette replied. Angela looked towards the bathroom at the end of the hall and she could hear the shower running, which meant her sister was there. So neither her mom nor her sister had called her. Angela stood there for a few moments, her heart racing. No one else was in the house. Neither her mom nor her sister had called her. Suddenly, she had this sinking feeling that whatever happened to her that day was going to happen again. She couldn't explain why, but she felt like something was wrong. She quickly dismissed her thoughts, went back to her bed, and then put the headphones on. And that's when, once again, she heard that voice. She pulled out her headphones and she heard a whisper. This voice said, "Get Deneen." This voice wasn't coming from downstairs or from the main door. It was coming from inside the walls. Angela froze, her heart pounding. This wasn't normal. This wasn't even close to normal. Suddenly, from down the hallway, she heard a scream. Deneen was screaming in the bathroom, a terrifying, blood-curdling scream. Without thinking, Angela jumped up, ran to the bathroom, and at the same time, her mother also came racing there. As they reached the door and pushed it open, they found Deneen curled up on the floor, shaking and screaming. She looked absolutely terrified, as if she had seen something horrifying. She kept crying, saying that someone was there in the bathroom, but when they checked, No one was there. In a later interview, Jeanette would go on to say that it looked like her daughter was having a seizure. That's how scared she looked. Jeanette quickly wrapped Deneen up in a towel, pulled her in her arms, and grabbed Angela too. The three of them ran into Jeanette's room, slammed the door shut, and climbed into her bed. They huddled together, trying to calm her down. Jeanette kept asking Deneen, "What happened?" It took a moment, but finally, Deneen spoke. She said that she was having a shower. Now, in her bathroom, the shower was separated with a glass wall. As she was having the shower, she felt as if she heard a male voice. Now, at first, she thought that maybe she was imagining this. As she continued to shower, she turned, and that's when she saw through the frosted glass a large hand outside the shower door. It was big, pale, and definitely not hers. And that's when she screamed. Jeanette felt completely hopeless. She had lost her husband. Now her daughters, they were in terrifying conditions, and Jeanette had no idea what to do. Leaving the house wasn't easy. They had put all of their life savings into that house, plus her husband's friends have been helping them tear down the house and build it up. She was now stuck with the house and money on one side and her daughters on the other. She didn't know what to do. She even considered the fact, what if the house was haunted? But even then, where would she leave the house? Where would she go? And so she decided, no matter what happened, she was going to protect her daughters, but stay in the house. Days passed, and everyone in the house was on edge. Jeanette, Deneen, Angela, all hated being there. At one point, the house had become this beautiful place, a place where they thought that they could build a future. But now they felt trapped. Being in that house every second scared them. They didn't know when the next fear would come, when the next voice, when the next tap would come in. Jeanette would constantly check the cameras, but there was no one. She didn't see that figure again. One evening, feeling restless and anxious, Angela decided to go outside. There was a swing set in the front property, and she told her mother she was going to be there. Inside the house, Jeanette was at the kitchen doing the dishes. From the kitchen window, she could look outside and see Angela on the swing. That gave her a little peace of mind. When she finished doing the dishes, she stepped away from the window, walked into the living room, sat on the couch, and grabbed a laptop. She opened up the security camera app, which was pointed directly at the swing set, and checked. As she clicked on the feed, what she saw made her stomach drop. There it was again, that same cloaked figure. The face wasn't clear, the quality wasn't clear, but this figure was standing right next to Angela. Jeanette stared in horror. The live camera feed showed her this figure, tall, shadowy, faceless, was standing right behind Angela as she was swinging. She had no idea that someone was behind her. Without wasting another second, Jeanette immediately jumped and ran out of the front door, screaming Angela's name. But before she could reach there, she heard Angela screaming. She was crying in pain. Angela was on the ground in front of the swing, sobbing and holding her leg. She said that someone had pushed her. Jeanette rushed her to the hospital, and the x-rays confirmed it. Angela had both dislocated and broken her ankle. That night, back home, Jeanette couldn't shake the feeling. She opened her laptop and once again checked the camera footage. The video clearly showed that there was a person standing behind her daughter, and this person then pushed her daughter and then disappeared back into the trees. Jeanette didn't want to wait any longer. She immediately called the police, showed them the footage, and asked them to help find this man. The officers watched the video in silence, but when it ended, one of them sighed and said they couldn't help because there was no way to know who this person was. The camera feed was not clear, they couldn't see the face, they couldn't see any features, there was nothing they could use. They told Jeanette to stay away from the woods and call them immediately if she ever saw anything again. They promised they would come fast. But that wasn't enough. Jeanette was now truly terrified. She realized that even if she was in the house, she couldn't protect her daughters. From that night on, she never left them alone. They would all sleep together in her room. Jeanette barely left her side. A few days after the swing incident, Jeanette had gone to the pharmacy. It was a quick trip. Deneen was at a friend's house, so Angela was home alone. Angela stayed in her bedroom and hoped that her mother would come back. Her ankle was in a cast, so she couldn't move a lot. To pass time, she put in her earbuds and started listening to music. Not long after, she heard something. A loud bang. This bang was not coming from downstairs or outside, it was coming from inside her room. She paused the music, held her breath, and listened. It sounded like it was coming from inside the walls. She already had lived through so many terrifying incidents. The kitchen incident, the tapping sounds, the banging noises, the swing incident, her sister Deneen being attacked. And now, Angela was scared of the house. Every sound, every creak, every little noise made her jump. But at the same time, she could not go anywhere because she was in a cast and her mother was not yet home. To distract herself, she played the music softly and tried concentrating. But the tapping, it didn't stop. Just as she thought that she could wait for her mother, she started to hear that same tapping. She froze. Slowly, she pulled out her earbuds and listened. The sound wasn't random. It was coming from inside her room. In fact, it was coming from inside her closet. Her closet doors were shaking, as if someone or something was trying to come out from the closet. She didn't wait to find out what it was. Terrified, she slid off the bed, crawled underneath, and pressed herself against the wall. From the space under the bed, she could see the bottom edge of the closet. It was shaking, and then, slowly, the doors began to slide open. Angela held her breath. A dark figure stepped outside. The air in the room turned thick, and an awful smell filled her nose. It was like rotting meat. The figure was tall and shadowy, with no clear features. Angela couldn't tell if it was human or not, but the skin, it was black. This creature started to move, and Angela tried to go closer and closer to the wall under the bed. Her heart was pounding loudly. She was praying, hoping that her mother would come back. She didn't know what this creature was, and she didn't want to find out. She waited and waited. Then finally, she heard what she hoped for. The faint sound of this creature's footsteps were gone. And then she heard a sound that made her blood run cold. This creature was running. The footsteps were running up the stairs and towards her bedroom. Angela's heart nearly stopped. She stared in horror as two bare feet stood right in front of her bed. The figure had come back and it knew exactly where she was. The bed above her creaked and groaned as the figure climbed on top of it. And then Angela pushed her hands to her mouth, trying not to scream, while her eyes were wide with horror. And then, out of nowhere, its head appeared. This creature dangled upside down, its face staring right at Angela. The creature's face was dark, with decaying skin and sunken black eyes, and a mouth that didn't move. The smell was of rotting flesh. It just stared at her. Angela couldn't hold it in anymore. She screamed at the top of her lungs. The figure quickly disappeared back onto the bed, and now it was sitting on top of the bed with Angela underneath the bed. Angela continued to scream again and again, but the thing just sat there and didn't do anything. For the next 45 minutes, Angela lay paralyzed under the bed, afraid to move. She could feel that creature on top of the bed, but she had no idea what to do. She couldn't get out. Finally, she heard one sound that gave her hope. Her mother's car pulled into the driveway. Angela started screaming, "Mom! Mom!" Jeanette must have heard her because the front door burst open and she came running up the stairs screaming Angela's name. Angela was screaming too, desperate for her mother. Jeanette rushed into the bedroom, dropped on the floor, and pulled her daughter from under the bed. Angela collapsed into her arms, crying, screaming, telling her that something was happening. "He's in the house. He's in the house. I don't know what he is. He's in the house. He came out from the closet." And this time, Jeanette believed her. When she came in, she definitely didn't see the creature, but she believed her. Something evil was in that house. Jeanette would help Angela up, and then she ran through the house, searching every room, every closet, every dark corner, hoping that whatever or whoever had scared her daughter would be there. But the house was empty. The figure was gone. By now, she was at a breaking point. Her daughter had suffered enough. Angela had been attacked, terrified, and traumatized. Jeanette didn't feel safe in her own home anymore. So without waiting for another minute, she grabbed Angela, got into a car, and drove up. The three of them, shaken, tired, and scared, drove straight to Jeanette's parents' home. That night, Jeanette made a decision. Enough was enough. She picked up the phone and called a paranormal investigator. When the woman on the other end answered, Jeanette's voice was shaky, desperate. "I need help. Someone's in my house, and I think it's trying to hurt my daughters," she said. The woman's name was Liz, and she specialized in house cleansings. She agreed to come and help. When Liz arrived at the house, she walked through every room, quietly talking to herself, performing her rituals. She burned sage, spoke incantations, and did a full spiritual cleansing of the house. The entire house was filled with smoke and herbs. When it was done, Jeanette said that something changed. The silence felt real. It was as if suddenly Jeanette stopped feeling scared. From that moment on, Jeanette would go on to say that the house was quiet. The strange sounds, they stopped. No more shadows, no more knocks, no more voices, no nightmares. Jeanette, Angela, and Deneen decided to stay in that house, and from then on, they never heard anything. They wanted to hold on to their home, the place that they had built together. Some people think that this is crazy. Why would you live in a house that literally traumatized and tortured you? But according to Jeanette, she said that it felt like home. That whatever or whoever that evil entity was, it was gone. In an interview, Angela and Deneen would go on to say that sometimes they feel like the ghost of their father was overlooking them, and that's why, after that cleansing, they never felt or heard anything again. This was the story of the Long Island haunting. I usually have a lot of questions to ask once I'm done with the story. In this story, the main question was, why would you live in a house that literally traumatized you, tortured you? But the family answered it by saying that they wanted to build new memories over there. Thank you so much for staying with me till the end. If you don't know, I have another channel called 3M Fear Fiction where I narrate fiction stories. I will soon start narrating fiction stories like this in video format, so stay tuned. In that YouTube channel 3M Fear Fiction, I'll be narrating original horror and thriller stories, long and short. So please do subscribe to the channel. I'll link it in the description. Your support means a lot. If there is any case that you want me to cover, do let me know in the comments. And until then, stay kind, stay safe out there, and see you next week.